And so, what would the modern day anthropology look like? Would it have those remnants today where cultures are separate but distinct and more fluid than we actually imagine them to be? Like, what
So
would,
that
yeah,
so modern anthropology, because of the fact that during the later part of the 20th century, first of all, you had the 20th century quote unquote evils. You had the fall of the Soviet Union,
mm-hmm,
and you also had fascism, Mussolini, Hitler. So
yeah,
there were sorts of political stop signs, essentially. These ideas are dangerous.
yeah,
These ideas lead to certain things. And you also had the violence that was ensued through capitalism.
correct.
And you had all of these, and you had also a response which was as a result of the communication that was going on. You had technologies which meant that someone in London could have
Mm,
instant news about what's going on in another country.
mm,
This merging of technology and politics resulted in quite a huge fracturing of information and the speed at which people understand and communicate things, which came to the idea that today a lot of anthropology has an activist stance,
mm,
has a stance that says, these are certain, I'm going into this particular place to study it so I can flesh out the various dynamics to see which parts of reality are the dominant power structures ignoring. So
mm,
even if there's like a refugee camp, for example,
yeah,
anthropologically speaking, when a person begins to study various things, they're looking at things that not everyone's looking at. They're looking at this very minute power relations between, for example, men and women within camps.
mm,
Looking at the way in which the concept of borders affects reality,
mm,
the concept of materials, for example. Do people carry their prayer books with them throughout the journey, or do they leave very, very specific incidences within the field, which they then flesh out into larger ideas and have communication with different parts of the world. So you can say, okay, in this refugee camp, this was the particular idea, in another it might be different, essentially. And what's happening now, essentially, because of this digital medium right now, is that there's quite a lot of interest in digital anthropology, understanding that we may be entering a world where we are becoming so integrated with these devices that we are using
mm.
that data is becoming real. So our conception or our notion of like the virtual and the real are slowly blurring, and what that means for humans. A lot of these very, very interesting questions are forming. And yeah, that's where we're at now at the moment.
That is
Quite very
very,
expansive, very expansive.
very, very interesting. A lot to go to. I don't know if I should go to the future or to go to the past for my next question to you. But there was so many things that you said there, and a lot of when you said that communication has blurred the lines of culture, right? So
Yes, yes,
I feel
yes,
like,
yes.
for example, this is what I'm finding in the modern day. Like when I'm looking around the world now, I see a lot of right-wing ideologies popping out everywhere.
Yes, yes.
And I think that's essentially because if Trump says something in America, somebody in Pakistan or Australia or New Zealand have access to that idea, even though they have no direct
Yes, yes, yes.
reality within the idea. And now that's ideas are now becoming much more open and much more accessible than ever
Mm-hmm.
before, even though my
Absolutely.
reality could be something different to the idea proposed to me. And
Yes.
that's why, in my belief, nationalism is rising at a rapid rate. And we've seen that. We've seen that in Brazil, to Hungary, to, even the UK to an extent is becoming
Absolutely. Absolutely.
right wing than ever. So is this what anthropologists have actually noticed since the middle of the 20th century with the rise of communication? Was this the the way it was always going to go with the internet and everything like that?
Mm.
That ideas will be much more accessible, and therefore
Okay.
uh,
Mm.
the rise of right wing. nationalism?
Sure. So with the expansion of anthropology into various questions, what happened with the discipline is that it kind of fractured with this point of communication. So when you're talking about nationalism, for example, although one could suggest that there is an anthropology of nationalism, the way in which to study it is not infinite, but close to very very large numbers. You can talk about class analysis. You can talk about the effects of neoliberalism. You can talk about the effects of changing gender relations. You could talk about the change of migration. You could talk, there's so many various angles in which nationalism can be studied. That, yeah, absolutely, anthropologists, and at the same time, anthropologists have to be very aware of all of these aspects. They have to be aware of the fact that a lot of people are, for example, becoming radicalized online. And what does the online, what kind of desires, or what kind of imaginations are those online communities responding to? And these kinds of questions, the array at which you can come at it is yes, vast.